I had gone through a couple of different iterations with this idea of how do we bring a women's line to the marketplace, having it be in the industrial camp, but be on brand. And it was like that chasm between the two of them was so, to me, it felt so wide because the general norm for our industry is downsize it, right? I think it's called shrink it and pink it is the thing. Yeah. I hate that on every front possible. Yeah. Yeah, it drives me crazy. Yeah, it's like, we are in a place where, again, nothing against the commercial world and the consumer world and stuff, but if this stuff has to perform and save lives, one of the biggest aspects of that type of equipment is the fit. Yeah. And so it can't be understated and ignored when you're considering what you're doing and why you're doing it. Yeah. So it was like, I took a couple of stabs at it as a guy and realized almost immediately, I have no idea. Like if you I thought yoga pants were easy. I was like, dude, it's just stretchy material. This isn't a big deal. You make it whatever you want. It's like, we don't have that same luxury in our space. So it was like, okay, this is going to fit right. And to figure out or to learn so quickly. And I think to have at least enough self-awareness that like, we don't know what we're doing. We need to go find somebody. And then to have it work its way through to land with you finally was like, oh, sweet. Now we're in the zone here.
Welcome to the LiveWire podcast, powered by Family. Join us as we explore the untold stories behind America's electrical infrastructure, sparking conversations about life, safety, business, and innovation. Brought to you by OEL.
Annie Bloj. Bloj?
Bloj.
Bloj is how you say it. Do people say Bloj?
People say blog. People say Bloj. It's a very unique name. We're the only ones in North America. So
really?
It makes life a little bit easier for me. Yeah.
Where are you from originally? What's your heritage?
Well, I'm from Virginia. I just grew up just outside of DC in the Northern Virginia area. And lived pretty much in the mid-Atlantic area for most of my life. But my husband his father's Chilean. And so he brought that name via Russia, which was Blok. But in South America, when he emigrated to South America, they don't have a hard K. They have a J.
Okay.
So they changed it to Bloj.
Okay, so it moved from Russian to South American. Now it's in America.
Now to America,
okay, it's officially affected America now.
There's like 4 of us in North America, and they're all Stewart's family. So it makes life a little bit easier.
Cool. So you said you grew up outside of DC, mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
What part of...
So I grew up in Fairfax County, Herndon, Virginia. Mm-hmm. We were on the outskirts of sort of what felt like suburban DC. Wow. We were like the farm town when we would do the football and stuff like that. But because of that, I think I was really exposed to going to DC was as easy as going from Boulder to Denver. Yeah. So we went to all the art museums and all that kind of stuff. And my dad was an interior designer for Marriott. So that creative world was always a part of my life. So it felt very natural to follow that path. So I love the area. It's a great area. It just exploded after I left home for college, but it was really cool to have access to so many cities and so much of that culture.
Okay, so you grew up kind of in this art family then in that regard. So your dad was an interior designer. What did your mom do?
My mom, she was stayed home until I was 11 and then went into education policy and reform. So she followed a totally different path.
So she went to DC basically.
She went to DC. She would argue in front of Congress and stuff like that for education policy. She got her PhD. She's like a badass. So I was really fortunate to have a parent in my life who would follow that career. So when I chose to be a when I decided I wanted to be a fashion designer, it was like, okay, well, that's a real job. You can have a 401k and health insurance and all that kind of stuff. There was no barrier entry to try to figure that out.
Oh yeah, because creative is like so feast or famine a lot of times, right? It's like you're on your own, you're kind of flying a solo act and stuff. It depends obviously, but I would think that your dad working at Marriott gave him some level of stability in that profession on top of it.
Yeah, it was really, I think he came from a family where that wasn't really accepted at the time. So going out and proving that it was a viable job option and he could provide for his family being a creative was like, why can't anyone do this?
Totally.
Even though it is a little bit hard and it's like any industry, it's kind of hard to find your way sometimes, but I feel very thankful because I meet with a lot of people that want to be in fashion design or creative jobs, and their parents were like, ugh,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to work for you. You
Yeah.
should think about options. And I always had the trust and faith of my family that it would work out if I worked really hard.
Was your dad able to kind of like create some level of guidance around that and stuff as you were starting to, because I'm guessing you were young when you kind of were like, I think this might be what I want to do. Because normally that's inspired when you're a kid.
Yeah. So I can't remember a time when I didn't want to be a fashion designer. My parents would get really mad at me because my dad, lucky for me, had all these art supplies. Like everything back then was done by hand. It wasn't really done by CAD the way it is done now. So I had access to all these art supplies just in my home, like really nice
You're talking
stuff.
like big, like almost
big
architectural desks and stuff. Yeah.
Markers, pencils, the whole 9 yards. And I would sit down. I was telling this to somebody the other day. I would sit down with a stack of typing paper, just like cheap paper, and I would draw a face for like a fashion model sketch. And if I didn't get the perfect sketch, I'd like move to the next page and I'd try it again. And I'd move to the next page. And my parents eventually were like, you've got to flip the paper over because we are going through so much paper.
You're making us broke on your drawing.
So I first sort of practiced on like, Barbie coloring books and stuff like that. And then started drawing on my own. And then kind of got interested in the fashion industry when I got to be like early teens. I wanted to read Vogue and all those magazines, but they were too risque. My parents were like, we're not buying that for you. You shouldn't be reading it. So I would sneak into the library back when you could look at magazines. I think you probably still can, but our library had Vogue and W Magazine and WWD and all those magazines. And I would sit and just read all the magazines in the library without my mom knowing. And that's sort of where I saw what it could be, which is kind of funny.
Wow. Okay, cool. So, all right. This is cool. This is fun. So so you kind of start this whole journey. How old are you when you're like starting to really kind of like explore into this space?
13, probably. 12, 13. The drawing happened first. A lot of people enter it through drawing or sewing. And I was not a sewer. I was definitely more of a drawing person. So I would just draw fashion sketches over and over again. And just as things came to my brain, I would just try to get it out. And I was lucky enough in high school that we had a fashion course in my high school, which was kind of unheard of.
I was going to say, that sounds super weird.
Yeah, like Fairfax County, Virginia is a very wealthy county because a lot of people from DC live there. So we had the benefit of having high schools that were sort of like focused. So my high school, lucky for me, was sort of one of the more creative ones. So we had graphic design. People were learning Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop in high school there. I mean, I think I got my first email address when I was a senior. So it's kind of wild that they were even having those options.
Yeah.
But we had a fashion class, and it was more fashion merchandising. But, I was super involved with that. And eventually in that class, we got to go on a field trip and got to go visit a few offices in New York. And that's sort of where it was like, all right, I have to be in New York. Like I have to move to the city. I have to figure out how to make this happen. Like what schools are there? Like how does it look to go to fashion school? And so kind of from there, my senior year, I really focused on getting into fashion school. I applied to 6 colleges. My parents eventually grounded me.
From applying?
No, they were like, well, you need to have backups on your backups on your backups. And like to get into a fashion school at the time, I'm sure it's the same now, each school had a portfolio project you had to do. So I wanted to go to all these schools, but I didn't want to sit down and do the project. I wanted to be hanging out with my friends, So they're like, if you want to do this, then you have to do it.
You gotta buckle down and do it then.
You have to
do
it.
And
it's,
for it.
Sort of a preview into what life in college doing that was going to be like. But I applied to 6 different schools. Humble brag, I got into all of them. And we took a tour at Parsons and FIT. FIT at the time was sort of more notable. It was more famous. It was also a state school, so it was less expensive. So my parents were excited about that. But we went to the Parsons senior event, and it was held at the ballroom at the Marriott in Times Square.
Oh, posh.
And it was seated dinner. Ralph Lauren was there. Calvin Klein was there. All these celebrities that I had only seen in magazines
were
there. And I remember going back to our room and I was like, I've got to go to Parsons. Like, I can't, I can't believe I can even be in the room with these people. So yeah, I applied to Parsons and I got in.
Obviously. You did not get in
I
anyway.
got in, but because it was a private school, it was incredibly expensive. My parents, they had planned for a certain amount of school, but not for that. And so we took out a lot of loans, got into a lot of debt, all completely worth it. But it definitely was like, if this isn't going to work out, if you're not going to really put your everything into this, then you've got to go. Like, we can't fund the ruckus.
Yeah, we're about to take on a second mortgage for you to go do this. I better see ROI on this.
Right. The ROI, the investment on that.
I don't want to hear in 2 years you're like, oh, I think I want to go into business admin or something.
Yeah. And I took a lot of loans out on my name too. Like it was a big leap. And it was all worth it. It was the hardest 4 years of my life. I could never do it again. But it got me in the door. My dad always said that Parsons got me the interview, but I got myself the job.
Yep, absolutely.
And I feel like that is really true. And, it taught me, the schedule was insane. It was just crazy. We had one class every day from 9 to 4. And the class on Monday, you sketched and concept an outfit or a collection. Tuesday, you were drafting the pattern. Tuesday, you were draping it to actually in fabric. Wednesday, you were making the pattern so you could cut it out of the fabric. Thursday, you were drawing, you were sewing, and you were drawing it on a model. And then Friday, we had time to go on an unpaid internship. But if you missed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday every week, you were just drowned.
Yeah, no way you could catch up.
Yeah, so it was really intense.
Is Parsons in New York City?
Yes.
Okay.
So Parsons at the time when I was there, oh my God, it was on 40th and 7th in the Garment District. It was also basically 2 blocks down from Times Square. So when we would get out at 9 o'clock at night or whatever after working, it was just
crazy,
as bright as day. Tourists everywhere. So it was a very unique college experience.
Totally.
They sold the building and now it's a Margaritaville hotel.
That's pretty nice, I must say. I was
like, there's a pool on the roof of my old college campus, but so it's no longer there. It moved back to Lower Fifth Avenue with the rest of the
So it didn't they didn't close the school down. They picked a different real estate.
They merged everything together.
Okay.
So it was a great experience. It gave me some amazing skills to survive in the industry. A lot of grit. Putting your work up every day and having your entire class critique it really gives you a thick skin.
Totally.
And makes you realize that it's not necessarily personal. And how can you grow from that feedback? So when I went into work and I would put something up or have a sketch review, if something wasn't 100% or whatever, I was like, all right, let's roll with it. You had developed
the hide at that point to be like, your opinion doesn't really make me nervous. It's fine. Let's just get to it.
Yeah.
Let's get it fixed.
Yeah. So I think in many ways it set me up for that. There was no sororities, no fraternities. There was no campus life. We didn't have a cafeteria. New York was sort of that for us. But it got me to where I needed to go.
Yeah. Creatives are normal, at least my experience with it. Most depends, I guess, but they can be notoriously emotional and dramatic.
Yeah.
And they can be challenging to work with for that reason alone. There's some genius over there. There's no question about it.
100%.
But there's the practical piece of it. It's almost like an engineer.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I see why you would engineer this way. I see why you would do that. But there's also a practicality piece of this that we've got to get to at the end of the day.
Yeah. And that sort of that assumption has always bugged me a little bit because I think for certain people in certain industries and creatives in that way, that is, true and can be tough, and to work with. But when you're working through Parsons and through all the companies I've worked for, it's business. Like I can't wait for inspiration to strike. I have to have 50 sketches tomorrow ready to show. I have to be on time. I have to, just as the same as everybody else that I'm working with, I have to be respectful, be on time, make sure that what I'm designing meets the needs of the brand and the customer and the given, ramifications or box that I've been put into. And I think for fashion design, for where I went with the more commercial design, like there are some very strict guidelines that you have to fill, and you can't be flighty, and you have to be on time, and you have to do all that. And there are times when there's no inspiration. There's times when you're just like, I can't design another puffer vest.
Oh, this sucks.
Like
this
I can't.
Just sucks.
Like, why do I have to do this? But you have to just power through. And that's one of the things that Parsons gave me was that on Monday, you've got to have something ready to go. Whether or not you feel like it, you just have to pull something out. So all of that combined was really helpful. Yeah.
Wow. That's really cool. So how did you end up over at like the J.Crew, the Gap stuff that we kind of know you more so for?
Yeah.
What was that process to get there?
So, like I said before, I had student loans. I had bills to pay. I didn't have family that could pay for an apartment in New York and pay for that lifestyle. One of the interesting things about going to Parsons is I went to school with a lot of people that could. So coming out of Parsons, they went to jobs that paid $25,000 because their parents could fund the rest of it.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at jobs, it was really important that I got a job. I couldn't just sort of wait around for something to happen. So Parsons organized a bunch of interviews and stuff like that. And one of them was with Abercrombie and Fitch. 2000s.
I've heard of them.
You've heard of them.
Yeah.
They've been around for a while.
I have stood in front of the door shirtless in the Grove.
You did?
With sandals.
Oh my God. I felt so bad for those guys.
I was almost booked on a very big campaign with them.
I'm sure you were.
And I opted out of it, but it was an interesting audition process to say the least.
Notoriously interesting. So I interviewed with them. It was a long process. They sent me out to Columbus where they're based. I interviewed with them a couple times. And, I got a job as an assistant sweater designer. And because I had knitted sweater swatches in my portfolio. And I was like, okay, sure, let's do it. So their sweaters
were big for a while. They were a hot topic for them for a bit.
Vests and argyles and all that kind of stuff. And that first job, I tanked it. Like I was terrible at it because there were these students and interns coming from the UK where their major was sweaters. And I did not major in sweaters. So they were on these machines just pumping them out.
Hold on. I got to back this over. I got to know this. So when you're at Parsons, you can choose your major and your major can be as extensive as sweaters?
No. So Parsons was general.
Okay.
So it was just fashion design. Now I think they've gotten a little bit more focused in different areas so you can market yourself better. But in the UK, where sweaters are big because they have sheep and it's known industry, in the UK at schools like Nottingham and all these other places, they were learning just sweaters. So these interns were coming in and just kicking my butt like on sweaters. And I was like, oh God, they're going to can me. This is my first job. And so thankfully I got moved over to cut and sew knits. So I was there for a bit. And then, so it's like t-shirts, anything that's got a seam in it that you can throw in the wash machine that's stretchy. And then I moved over to woven shirts, which is like what you and I are wearing. And wovens is I just loved that. I loved the tailoring of it. I loved having to fit it. I loved prints and all that kind of stuff. So I started with woven
plating
shirts.
and stuff and
picking it.
Yeah. Okay.
And moved into, and that sort of became my entry point into the rest of my fashion career. And then met my husband at Abercrombie. He was in the marketing department choosing models.
Oh, okay. Now I know who to call. So, that's funny.
He had some interesting stories.
He probably saw my comp card at one point.
He probably did.
Then, yeah.
He was actually in charge of all the girls. If you can believe that. So
it's white underwear and
he had
tank
a cushy
tops.
job for a bit and then decided that marketing wasn't his long-term thing and wanted to go to law school. So we met, we moved to New York City. I got a job at American Eagle, woven shirts, kept doing that, started, just sort of building my portfolio and my experience. And then just basically went through the woven categories and then really started focusing on denim and really hard products and outerwear and stuff like that. And what I loved about denim was that basically it all comes raw. Like you just get these
Bolt
raw
of fabric.
a bolt of fabric. And it's this mercurial, magical thing that happens when you wash it the right certain way. You put
just
the
stress it. The
whiskers
better
on it.
it gets better as it goes. Yeah.
And it's like denim to me feels like it's alive. Like it's always moving with you. It's molding to your body. Something that you wear all the time, sometimes every day. And I just love the process of that. So I was lucky enough to go to Cone Denim, which is a manufacturer of fabric in North Carolina. They had a Cone College.
Oh, all denim like comes out of the Carolinas.
Unfortunately, not so much anymore. But I went to college there twice. So they're like, you have your master's in denim. And it was really fascinating just to see how things are produced, see how things are made. And then at J.Crew, I really got into that category. So I would fly all over to do that. I did a lot of manufacturing and production out of LA, some Mexico.
Oh yeah, the freaking LA denim scene is huge. The downtown LA, and then it's not Escondido, is it?
Gardenera.
Gardenera?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or I hope I'm saying that right.
I know it's off Sepulveda right there.
But I would be like this blonde gal driving around Compton.
I'd be down there for like the True Religion stuff, or like all those guys.
I went to the True Religion factory.
I was in there all the time for castings and stuff. And they're like, okay, sit on the motorcycle. Okay, now take your shirt off, and it's just like, okay.
Yeah, so, we did a lot of work with their manufacturing people by Long Beach, and then I moved to New York and Company, and I was in Indonesia, like an hour away from Bali doing work. I was in Mexico. I did work everywhere for them while also managing at that point a team. I had about, 5 or 6 designers that I was managing, and we were doing all of wovens. So by then I was not only just focusing on denim and all this other stuff, but shirts, dresses, skirts, pants, anything that was woven. So that was sort of where my trajectory went. I loved it. Yeah. It was so fun. It gets a little hard after a while.
Oh, I can imagine.
Just trying, Parsons taught me how to dig deep on inspiration, but like at that point in the industry, and I think it's still the same, I mean, you're trying to introduce a new collection every 2 weeks because the customer is used to going in and seeing something new,
In the denim world?
Denim world, but just across the board. Denim's a little bit more
It's a little stable and fixed. Kind of,
it's like, hey, around everything else.
Maybe a pearl snap, maybe not a pearl snap.
Exactly.
Right?
But like dresses, tops, pants, all that kind of stuff. The rapid increase of production and expectations by the customer because of fast fashion and all that kind of stuff. Sort of just everybody sort of getting into panic about how much they had. So it can be a lot.
Yeah, no kidding. So so you're traveling all around doing this, this is with J.Crew.
J.Crew, New York and Company, everybody. I ended up traveling. American Eagle was my first time I went to Asia. Deep China. China where you're like, where am I?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also, I mean, one of the amazing things about being in that world, especially at that time, was the travel.
What year is this? What?
I think I graduated, I started at Abercrombie 2000. I left the Gap at 2013.
So yeah, I mean, that's really that's when you see the fast fashion really, because the internet really starts scaling it up for everybody. And then the optionality just goes berserk. And now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, how many pieces can we make? And it's like, we need 50 denim jean options online for both male and female.
Right.
And it's got to change every so often so we can rebrand or bring new product to market, right? So
I was there when the first H&M opened on Fifth Avenue in New York, and we were all like, holy cow.
Yeah, they changed the game.
This is going to be a game changer. Lines out the door.
Then Forever 21 right behind them and stuff. Yeah.
Zara. And then in my career, I've also seen the birthplace of online shopping. Like that didn't exist in the aughts, in the early aughts. It was sort of, as it started growing, it was sort of like, well, this is the 50-second door. We're just going to pretend that online is just another shop. We're going to treat it like another shop. And now you have to exist on the internet first before you can open a shop almost. So
yes, you got to build your brand there.
Yeah, you have to build your brand and build a trust before you can even open a door. So just seeing the evolution of that has been really interesting.
Well, even just like the sizing side of things, right? It's like everybody orders 5 pairs, or at least my wife does. Everybody orders 5 pairs of different variants of it and different sizes. And it's like, you got to have that on the shelf ready to ship so they can do their sizing thing at home.
Right.
And it's just like,
Hopefully
I mean, just
you get it back.
the production side of it, the writing off, it doesn't come back the right way, but we got to give them a refund because we don't want a bad review. Like by the time you put all this together, it's like, where's the boiling point on the designer side of that, right? Because then it's just like, everybody's got their thumb on everybody now, being like, please keep this thing. And then you've got the executives and you've got the shareholder value now putting pressure on everybody just to assimilate into this crazy new economy of shopping.
Wild. And, you know, there's been all this talk about sustainability recently in the past couple of years and what that means. And somebody pointed out the sustainability of talent. And I thought that was a really interesting point, that we're not only asking for, you know, things to be made correctly or whatever, but there is a burnout rate in fashion.
Oh God, it's a burnout rate in creative anything.
Yeah. So I have this wonderful mentor, Marie Rayo, and we were talking candidly one day, and she was like, there's no retirement parties for fashion designers. They're like dogs that just go up to Vermont and are never seen again. And it's true. There's no one in my world that had a retirement party for fashion.
Yeah, they just slowly drifted off into the background.
And, you know, who knows what happens, or maybe you open a shop or something like that. But I think the concept of sustainability of creativity is a really interesting point within the industry, because it's unmanageable. It's just simply unmanageable.
How do you think AI plays into that equation a little bit? Like, is that scary for you guys, like on that front now?
Well, so there are lots of ways that it plays in that actually does help with sustainability. And I know AI fundamentally isn't sustainable, but was a process that we would do all the time where we would be sampling things. So like I would design something, I'd buy a print, I'd get 1 or 2 samples of the prints in those sample that I designed, and we'd be like, looks like garbage. On to the next. And that is inherently sustainable because somebody just made yardage, somebody sewed it, somebody sent it to us, and we just trashed it. There are points in AI where you can now simulate a sample, so you don't have to go through the process of the yardage and the making and stuff like that. So I think that is really helpful. Because a lot of times in the industry, as a creative, I have the ability, and I don't know where it comes from, but to see things 3D in my head. Like I can see how it's going to look. But usually I'm the only person on the team that can do that. So I need the merchandising team to buy into like this thing I have in my brain.
Yeah, now you got to sell it upstream.
Yeah, and the production person and the technical person, they all have to sort of trust that I have this vision in my head. So to be able to have something that's AI that shows what I'm thinking in the right scale, in the right colors, everything, before we go through the whole process of making it.
Your presentation now looks a lot more
helpful.
Structured and stuff. Yeah.
And it's a little bit more solidified than it's just sending things out and hoping they come out right.
Oh, it's the most aggravating process in the world. It's like being like, why didn't that fit right? That was cut verbatim. Like that is exactly the dimensions. How did this miss and stuff? And yeah, I mean, obviously you do that. We did that with the shoot and stuff, right? It's like all of a sudden, I got the talent size, right? Like I know this is cut perfectly to size. Why isn't this fitting correctly and stuff? We got to go back to the drawing board now and rip this thing apart. Yes.
So, and AI can also help with some immediate fit issues that you may not have anticipated. But at the end of the day, there's nothing like fitting it on an actual person,
100%.
Which is exactly what you were just saying. Like having an actual person put it on,
move with it,
wear it. See if it actually does the thing that you intended it to do is totally different than what you have in your brain. And that, I mean, the last job I had in New York before we moved to Colorado and I started freelancing and consulting was at Baby Gap because I had just sort of burnt out on women's.
So you wanted to go to like onesies.
Yeah. And you know, it's like the cutest little thing. It's like impossible to get on in the middle of the night.
Oh God, it's awful.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
like, I know that they have like zipper ones, which I actually appreciate.
Yeah.
And then apparently they have magnetic ones. I need to go down that rabbit hole on the next one, but like the buttons.
The buttons.
I mean,
in the middle of the night. Yeah.
I'm like, why isn't this one right? And I'm
I
like,
think Gap
God,
at the time, I'm not sure if they still did do it, have like a glow in the dark middle one.
Oh, interesting.
So you could see the glow in the dark in the middle and then work your way out.
Yeah.
But what I was really funny about working at Baby Gap was that you literally were like, can they get it on? Like, can we get it over their head?
Dude. Yeah.
So it wasn't like, is it cute?
I forget to unbutton the side piece, then I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, is it cute? Is it on trend? Like, that was nothing that we had to worry about. Like, we had to worry about to make sure that they could like get their arm in
the cutest onesies are buttons, though.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I know.
Like, I'm like, why can't we do the cutest ones with the magnets?
And that's what everyone wants to buy you too when you have a baby.
Yeah.
It's the cutest thing imaginable, which usually is the most expensive and the hardest to get on.
Yes, completely impractical in a lot of ways. So yeah, no, it's
yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I love my daughter, but she's like she's a high motor skills.
Yeah.
So she can kick and throw her arms real well, and so it's like, and at 1:00 in the morning, she's gonna be doing that. So yeah,
she's just pounding you.
She's a beast.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so you work at Baby Gap. So this is a cool collection though of stuff that like you've got. You got Abercrombie, you've got American Eagle, you've got J.Crew, you've got you got them all. It's like you've got because then you went to Baby Gap at the end of it. So like you kind of seen this cool spectrum of the fashion industry. So you guys are like, all right, hey, look, I'm done. I'm gonna go to onesies. This is gonna be fine for a little bit. I can manage the stress level of this a little bit.
Yeah.
Then you guys moved to Colorado.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my husband was working for a company that had bought a company out in Boulder, and they were looking for someone to come and sort of manage that and like have a liaison between them. He became a lawyer, thank God. And I had sort of been burnt out, like we were talking about earlier. And I had a 3-year-old who I had in the city. I was pregnant with our second. And we were just staring down the prices of raising a kid.
You're talking about like how like you get in a taxi after you leave the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's like, who's got a you get a car seat in the back of that thing?
We all had a car seat. All my friends and I, none of us had cars. So we just had one car seat that we would pass around to take the baby home in the cab. And then getting a stroller up and down the stairs or on the subway, and then the preschools and nannies, and we had the most amazing nanny. But we were going to have to pay her twice for the second baby and preschool for the first one, and we were like, oh, let's just try Colorado. Like, let's just try it. I had never been here before. I'm not a camper. I'm not an outdoorsy person.
No, I hate that. I'm fine.
I feel like it's too hard to make a cup of coffee. I'm sorry.
It is hard to make a cup of coffee, and there's always dirt in the tent.
And there's
There's always
and
dirt in the
mosquitoes.
tent. Yeah.
And I'd rather be in a hotel. Anyways,
it's a New Yorker.
I know. Sorry.
Grew up in
Fairfax. Take the girl out of Colorado.
That's Fairfax County. Yeah.
But we moved. Everybody was like, "Why are you doing that?" And we were like, "We just need a break." Like all the things that we had moved to New York to do in our 20s, we had done, and now we couldn't do anymore because we had kids, or it was just too much of a pain. So, 8 months pregnant, we moved out here right after the big flood that happened in Lyons and Boulder. We arrived at night. I had never been out here. Stuart had come once just to check it out.
There's a bear in your yard.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, let's party.
Yeah, exactly. And the day after we arrived, I had an appointment with a doctor to make sure I was okay. The baby came early or anything like that. I remember waking up the first morning we were there and opening the curtains and seeing the mountains and being like, oh, I am used to Virginia mountains that are like rolling hills, essentially.
Now you get it. Yeah.
Now I get it. And we've been here for 12 years and we've loved every year. I mean, it just gets better and better. So, and I found people like you and OEL to work with. There's a lot of people in the community that you're looking for fashion design help or consulting to get them across the line. So it's been really fun. And some of the most interesting projects of my career have come because of moving here and meeting people like you and working with OEL. So that's been a real benefit to it.
Well, that's really cool. I mean, that's a great story. I really anticipated that I was going to exit you on that story at multiple points, but I found it so interesting.
Am I talking too much?
No, you're great. No, you're doing great. I think that, so I want to kind of like pivot into this. So we start this relationship and stuff because I want to sort of the back half of this thing talk about the, a little bit of the industry stuff and a little bit of the kind of the context around some of the things that got us going and stuff. So from that, I reach out to you. I find you through a couple of different channels. I think I started actually with John Miller and asked him, I need a female designer and stuff. I had gone through a couple of different iterations with this idea of how do we bring a women's line to the marketplace, having it be in the industrial camp, but be on brand. And it was like that chasm between the two of them was so, to me, it felt so wide because the general norm for our industry is downsize it, right? I think it's called shrink it and pink it is the thing. I hate that on every front possible.
You told me that. I was like, what?
Yeah, it drives me crazy.
They actually say that
Yeah,
out
it's
loud?
like, well, it's like we are in a place where, again, nothing against the commercial world and the consumer world and stuff, but if this stuff has to perform and save lives, one of the biggest aspects of that type of equipment is the fit. And so it can't be understated and ignored when you're considering what you're doing and why you're doing it. So it was like, I took a couple of stabs at it as a guy and realized almost immediately, I have no idea. Like if you I thought yoga pants were easy. I was like, dude, it's just stretching material. This isn't a big deal. You make it whatever you want.
It's fine.
We don't have that same luxury in our space. So it was like, okay, this is gonna fit right. And to figure out or to learn so quickly, and I think to have at least enough self-awareness that like we don't know what we're doing. We need to go find somebody. And then to have it work its way through to land with you finally was like, oh, sweet. Now we're in the zone here. and there was obviously a few other pieces that got us connected too, which was cool. But I think just going through that process with you and learning about women's garments is awesome. And I think what was one of the coolest things about it was just seeing it be enabled across other features, even into like the men's line and stuff, and being like, this is a great idea. Like we didn't think about this. And that's what I like about the forward facing side of it. But I mean, I guess when I look at the women's stuff, like women are starting to move into the industry more, which is, I think, exciting. One, I think cost of living is forcing it to some degree, which is crazy. But I also think that trades in this new economy are going to be the gold of industry. So as women move into it and stuff, I think for us, so much of it is predicated on obviously storytelling. There's brand equity there that's associated with it as well. But then it's also what I've discovered through the journey is that it's not about me or my family or anybody else. It's about like us bringing high quality product to the marketplace that actually works and finding ways to curate the right people in the room that have that same integrity and that same intentionality around it. So that's where I think that with you, it was like, oh, you get it. Like you got it right away. You were willing to go with us down this path to say, oh, okay. Like, yeah, I see what you guys are going for now and bring some great ideas and initiation to that stuff. So what would you say would be like maybe one of the more challenging parts of industrial workwear, qualified worker apparel? And what were some of the things that maybe you didn't expect to appreciate about the journey?
Well, I think a lot of what probably the hardest thing was the technical aspect of the fabrication that you guys have to use. There's no give. There's no stretch or anything you can sort of manipulate for the fit. So you really have to build the fit into the garment.
Right. Yeah.
And that
we don't have a lot of elasticity.
Yeah. So that was something. And beyond that, the woman who's going to be wearing it is going to be moving constantly. So there's no it has to be very easy to wear. So not having stretch and knowing that the person is wearing it to move, I think added a little bit of more consideration on my part. And then I think a lot of it was figuring out different tricks within the garment that we could utilize to accommodate a wide range of body sizes. Because, what you were showing me from other competitors didn't offer the same fit details or structure that I think women really look for. So I think building those two things in together and having those considerations for the actual person that's wearing the garment, that's always been something that I've been trained to do in my career. Like different brands have different customers. So I have to adjust my design style for that customer. And it's not personal. It's not me. So, I think I was really wanting to take into consideration the women that are going to be wearing it and how they would feel. I think it was incredibly important that you use the same colors and the same fabrics so that women felt respected in the workplace and felt like they weren't being called out as a woman.
Yeah.
And I think it was a little shocking to me
Really?
that was happening.
That like these pastel colors were being used in women's apparel.
Like when
it's ridiculous.
Yeah, when I've told former colleagues about this work or this project, I mentioned that and they're all just like, what? And I'm like, yeah, like I can't imagine being a woman that would want to get into this field for various reasons, want to be on a job site and be visually called out before they're even met, or they've met their team, or they've commanded that respect that they deserve. So one of the things that I thought was really great was that first off, you having the self-awareness that you need somebody that has experience doing this and to take it seriously, not just shrink it and pink it, like you said. And then to really think about the women that are out there in the field doing the work that you guys are protecting them against. So I thought I was just really inspired by the mission of what you were trying to accomplish. So I was really proud to come on board.
Well, it was awesome. It was so much fun. I think that Jay and I were talking about it, was on the creative side of it. We were talking about like what were some of our favorite projects and stuff. And I initially said like the Black Series stuff was fun because we did so much like kind of campy, funny stuff with it.
Yeah. There's humor built into it.
Yeah. And then, but then he might have brought it up or I can't remember, but it was, well, what about the women's line? I was like, dude, the women's line freaking rips. Like it was one of those things where when we put that out, I was just like,
proud.
Yeah. Like threw the ace of spades on the table and was like, yeah, we got him, dude. Like I was like, this is awesome.
You invested the time and effort and the resources into making it look as good as you could. And I think the reaction to it feels really positive and like you're creating a real niche in the market that wasn't addressed.
The greatest affirmation that I got in that journey was, obviously there was a lot of high points to it, but the picture I got from a very, very high profile client and their girls wearing it and how much they appreciated it was the coolest thing to see. I mean, it's always cool when you see product in final iterations of it and stuff, and to see it, printed in a catalog and stuff. But really, the beauty of it is when you see it on the actual worker, not the talent, but the worker that's out doing it, and that fits right.
Yeah.
They're comfortable. They're going to have a better work experience because of that, and it makes every bit of a year and a half, whatever that journey timeline was, completely worth it.
Yeah.
So I think that was just so fun.
My husband pointed out, because he's been in meetings similar when he was working in marketing, that there's always a moment at like 10 o'clock at night when you're arguing over like a button. Someone says, it's not brain surgery. Like, let's just move on. Like, let's just get through this. And somebody will be like, we're not saving lives. And my husband was like, you are actually saving lives with this design. And that is so cool.
Oh, because one of the biggest things that we have is one of the biggest hurdles that we have to get over too is people don't want to wear this stuff. So that's why some of the new partnerships that we've developed over the years with higher grade textiles or innovative fabrics or whatever else it is that's associated with it. And then bringing in the design element too. Like that's the beautiful kind of symbiotic relationship that we're trying to create with the OEL brand ultimately through it is great design, great textile choices that ultimately enable the worker to feel both confident and safe at the same time. There's a kind of a paradigm that happens, or like a seesaw type of analogy with production and safety. Production is we want maximum output from our workers, but that maximum output typically comes at the jeopardization of safety.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're over safe, you kill your production capacity, right? So then that doesn't work either for the bottom line. So the goal is to find this sweet spot where it's beautifully balanced between the two of them. And that is where I look at like the women's line, and I look at some of the stuff that with the GTX Black Series line, I'm like, oh man, we nailed that thing right on the money with that. And I'm so excited because it set the precipice for kind of the brand and the expectations. I mean, for me, selfishly, the brand piece of it, but also just elevating the market in a way that says this is the new benchmark.
Yeah.
Like this is what you need to achieve to even be relevant in this space. And we love being able to set that benchmark. And it comes at the back, or it comes on the backside of just obviously working with you. And I think that's the piece of it that I think is super fun. Like we're defining industry now, which is great.
I'm proud to be a part of it. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah.
And the campaign looked amazing and everything you guys put together.
It was a good team.
Yeah.
That was a good team.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to be a dummy in the middle of it, but ultimately, like,
you had opinions.
I had some opinions, but ultimately, it's like get out of the way of the professionals and let them do their thing, and they do their thing well.
Well,
so,
I remember when we were picking models to cast for the shoot and stuff like that, and being really attentive to picking women that represented a broad spectrum of who would be in the field and age range and, you know, all of that, and really showing representation. That was something that kept coming up throughout the whole process was representation. And, you know, in my mind, your field is such a male dominated world, that maybe having more representation would bring more women into the fold. And if you're ready to have the garments for them to wear, then they're off to the races.
Yeah, we've got a conference coming up in like 2 or 3 weeks, and right on display is the GTX Black Series line in women's, and it's like that is
so
guys,
good.
that's the caviar right there. I love that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's super fun. So I love being able to just lean into it and like lean into great partners like you that understand the vision, understand where we want to go as a brand, but also where we want to push the industry towards, because that is ultimately, it is saving lives. And that's what we want it to represent. And we want it to empower people and really like just build that confidence in their safety programs. And the market is crazy now with the energy revolution, all the power generation, everything that's going on. More and more people are exposed to these hazards, and we want them to have good options, even if it's not with us. We want to be able to set the template for the marketplace to say, buy it at this level,
set
though,
the
at
bar.
the least.
So you're doing it.
Thanks. We appreciate that. Well, it's your help. So it's without you. It's not without you. So closing thoughts on this. I don't know how long we've gone for, Jay. Have we? Where are we at? Okay, that's what I figured. We were over.
Good.
Let me ask one more question.
Content.
All right, so great content. Closing thoughts. What would you say to someone who is interested in getting in the fashion industry today? What are some of the hallmark things that you're like, focus on this?
Well, that's a really good question, because things have changed since I got into school. I think there are resources, businessofashion.com, BOF.com. I think being aware of the industry and business and where that's going, I think is more valuable than it was when I was going in. I had limited resources to know what was going on behind the scenes, and now there are so many things you can look at. I think being open-minded to what you could do in fashion. You know, when I was coming up, I thought it was just fashion design, but there are so many players that go into creating a collection, like fashion merchandising. There's planning, you know, all these different jobs and roles that visual marketing and merchandising and all these things that contribute equally to make a line come together. So, you know, exploring different options. And I would say, like, at the time, Parsons was the most famous and the most well-known, but it's not that way anymore. There are a lot more options out there that students can take resources from or go explore. You know, back when I was coming up, once again, it was New York and LA, more New York than anything else. That was sort of where it's at. But now it's like you could put anything on the internet. You could put anything on Instagram and see what happens. And I think that's so empowering and so interesting. And I think there is, you know, going to school and learning your trade and really building your grit and building your tough skin. Those are really valuable parts of going to school. And the introductions that you get, the people that I've met that I go back to from time to time to check in with. And, you know, some of my best friends in my entire life have come out of the fashion industry. It's not as bitchy as one would think. But I think, you know, there is value to going to school, to having those experiences, pulling all-nighters once a week, like all that kind of stuff builds you for the fashion industry, because it is tough. But I think it's different in the way that you can market yourself and put things up that you believe in and feel excited about. There's less gatekeeping than there was when I was a student. But yeah, I think just explore all avenues and reach out if anybody has any questions. I'm happy to talk to anybody about it. But it's a really exciting industry and it's a real job. You can get a 401k and healthcare, like I said before, like it's a job. You can have all those things. You can support a family off of it. I know a lot of people that do. So, taking all those things into consideration.
Don't be afraid of it.
Don't be afraid of it. Yeah, it's not. I think it was a far off distant world when I was 18, but it's not that way anymore. People live on the internet, so you can sort of make your own brand that way. So, yeah.
Cool. How can people find you if they want to connect with you?
My website is Annie Bloj, ANNIEBLOJ.com. And my Instagram is Annie Bloj, ANNIEBLOJCC, at whatever. So, but it's been so great to chat with you and connect again.
I love it. It's awesome. Thank you so much for all your help.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to the future. So
Me too.
Annie Bloj, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.